Not too long ago now, we saw the return of Miraculous Ladybug Season 6 after a long hiatus with the episode Mr. Regressed. That one was a bit of a banger to tell you the truth, and luckily enough, it was not scheduled as a one and done. We still have a number of episodes that are set to release over the course of October, and then into November as well, starting off with Sleeping Syren, which just released. Coming into the episode, I figured it would be a Kim-focused episode that's not too heavy on the plot advancement. We've had a few episodes like this in Season 6 which managed to build up the main protagonist quite well, whilst also providing some focus to minor heroes and fleshing them out. We've seen this for Sabrina in Daddy Cop, Ivan in El Toro de Piedra, and then Nathaniel in The Ruler. Kim has historically probably been one of my most disliked characters. You're supposed to view him as this lovable himbo, but instead he comes across as such a douche. This episode, it does very little to sway me from that opinion, to tell you the truth. I think you're supposed to come away from it finding him endearing. I just wanted to drown him in the Seine. Ondine needs to dump this dude's ass. That being said, just because I find that they didn't quite hit the mark with Kim, doesn't mean that I thought the episode was a bust. I actually thought it was a very enjoyable watch. I might dislike the boy, but it's gotten to the point where it's a love to hate him sort of thing, so I still had fun. So let's jump into it, shall we? The episode starts off following Ondine, who's waiting outside school for Kim, when she sees him running in with his dads. She puts on some lip gloss in preparation for a kiss perhaps, and then heads over to see them. So Kim has two dads, one of whom I noticed looks like a more Chadley version of Gabe. That one's likely where he's gotten his athletic mindset from, whereas his other dad, bit more soft-spoken, bit more gentle. He's taking Kim's blood pressure, calling him Little Fish, calling Ondine Little Mermaid. Okay, this guy is cute. I kind of ship the relationship simply because of this guy now. Apparently Kim also has an extremely good sense of smell, being able to smell Ondine's banana-flavoured lip balm from a couple of paces away, while she's facing away from him saying goodbye to the dads. That is some extremely impressive smell detection. It's like Tanjiro from Demon Slayer. She tells him that she picked it because she knows he likes bananas. Hint, hint, you want to taste it? All that sort of thing. And he looks at her like he's going for it, only to do the got your nose thing and run away giggling with her chasing him. Okay, so this episode presents him as being clueless to the point of absurdity. The type of dude that thinks a boyfriend and girlfriend are really good friends who say that they love each other, but nothing else. No real added romantic elements there. He seems like a pure innocent crossed with an idiot. However, to me, it does feel like this is going against his character that we've seen previously. We know that he's been interested in kissing her before, as Syren legit is going to kiss him in her debut episode. In Season 2. That's when they start their relationship, by the way. How is this dude so lacking in game that we've arrived at the stage where his relationship is as old as pretty much everybody else's, and older than some like Kagami and Felix and Marinette and Adrian, and yet he's not noticing at all what should be happening. It's not even like he knows but he's ignoring it because he's not ready. It's more like he's been given a lobotomy. Well, even more of a lobotomy. These random bully characters, one of which we know is that dude who was threatening Zoe at the end of Daddy Cop, sees this and decides that they're going to ruin their relationship and break them up. Why do they do this? I guess because they're just evil? This is a bit of a yikes, isn't it? I mean, even Chloe and Lila back in the old days generally had a reason for acting like they did. You were either in their way or you'd piss them off somehow. These dudes, though, are just going all in on trying to wreck the relationship for no other reason than they're out for shits and giggles. Good. This is a great way to build up new villains that don't run the risk of becoming overtly popular with the audience. Make them truly awful and reprehensible. Hopefully they're not a one and done sort of character either. I hope they keep doing stuff like this across the season. The show needs more human villains that cause chaos and akumatizations. We cut over to the cafeteria area where Marinette snoops on Alia's phone and notices she's texting Nino and gives her a bit of banter about how Alia can't even wait an hour to see him, and so she keeps on texting him. Then when Alia goes into detail about their texting, including Nino's bathroom schedule, Marinette gets all, oh, wow, as if she thinks it's weird that Alia and Nino overshare. It's a bit rich coming from Stalky McCreepazoid, that's all I'm going to say. This then turns into a bit of girl talk at the table about whether they share everything with their boyfriends/girlfriends. Mylène claims that she does, but that Ivan's more reserved and doesn't talk about his family. So here we can see that they were planting the seeds ever so slightly that his parents kind of sucked, and that he has a lot of shame surrounding them, specifically his dad. That's something I've been enjoying a lot over Season 6. They're taking the time to build the world and set up future plot points in different episodes throughout the season. Even when the episodes are being played out of order, you can still look at something like this and think, oh, that's what they were trying to do here, or they're referencing this moment, and it's still a lot of fun. Rose and Julika continue to be cute. Kagami talks about how it's hard to communicate with Felix since he lives in London, and when asked about how they keep in touch, she simply says video calls, but of course in actuality, they're using their Miraculouses to fly. So I guess they also have their own powered up potion food then? Does that mean Marinette has to make all of that stuff as the Guardian? In Season 2 they show you that you need a bunch of crazy ingredients to do so where does she keep it all? Did Master Fu leave her his old house or something to work in? Or is this a plot point that I'm not supposed to think too hard about? To throw the heat off herself, Kagami asks Ondine about how she and Kim are going, and Ondine reveals that she's worried because they haven't kissed yet. He also hasn't ever held her hand or said he loves her. The last one I'll give a pass because he's a teenage boy and I don't think it's odd to not say I love you at that stage. Especially since the world often laughs at people who say that kind of thing too early and call them clingy or creepers or whatever. The rest though? Bro. Also, where are his friends in all of this? Do they seriously never have guy time and ask about this kind of thing at all? I've been a teenage boy. This is one of the major topics of discussion throughout the entire school experience. It feels so unrealistic to have him not even think about it and for nobody to ever ask about it. It's gotten to the point that Ondine is worried. She wonders if they're even a couple at all. Yikes. Here is where we get to see the sad decline of Kim from a relatively standard himbo into one of the dumbest characters in the entire show. Actually, scratch that. The dumbest character by a very significant margin. There is not a single person that comes close to the level of smooth braining that is on display whenever he's on screen in this episode. Gabe would be jealous from beyond the grave seeing this boy. Her friends try to console her somewhat and tell her that some couples struggle with this sort of thing, that maybe she should just ask him. However, she doesn't want to ask him. She thinks it wouldn't be romantic. The princess never has to ask in a fairy tale, and I do agree with this. Somebody having to ask is fuel for gossip and will have people laughing behind your back forever. It's pretty pathetic and just not a good look. To be honest, I think her friends need to step up here. I'll give them a pass for not knowing beforehand because why would they? But now they do know, it's time to head straight to this fool and let him know what's what. I mean, they have to have been dating for a little while, right? I know that the chronology for the early seasons is kind of messed up and so things happen out of order, etc. In Dark Cupid, Kim is still pining for Chloe and trying to ask her out, so they must get together after Valentine's Day. By this point though, they're newly back at school and it's likely that it's been a couple months since they started dating. Thus, once you hear they haven't even kissed or held hands, it's time to take the boy aside or ask one of your boyfriends/male friends to do so and figure out what the hell's going on. Interrogate the man. Do not try to encourage this girl to woo the stupidest person you know. It won't work. Unfortunately, I was not in the room to tell them this, and so they don't follow my advice. Instead, they come up with terrible plans. First, Marinette suggests that they develop a scenario to create the perfect first kiss, like her chasing down Adria into the airport on her scooter. They realise that artificially creating a traumatic scenario is probably not going to be the best idea, and so more ideas are suggested. Mylène says that Ivan wrote her a poem, and so Ondine thinks that this is the way to go. I'm that meme of Walter White screaming from inside the car on this one. A poem for Kim. How are none of these girls cottoning on? In The Simpsons, it's revealed the reason that Homer is so stupid is because he has a crayon lodged so far up his nose, it is in his brain making him dumb. This is Kim, but with no crayon. Good God, those fathers have failed this boy. The school system has failed this boy. Even his Kwame has failed this boy. How the hell is it that we've seen Tiki and Plag talking about love and romance? I rewatched Frozen and Plag was picking up all the signals. Kagami, Ladybug, Marinette, he was noticing it all. Yet this monkey's not thinking, ooh, this dude's a bit of an idiot, better help him out. The boys have been creeps at this point and are recording the girls talking so they can make their little plan together, and they decide they're going to take turns trying to break them up. The dude who was threatening Zoe goes first and approaches Kim during music class. It seems Julika's mum, who's the teacher, at the very least she knows what's up. She has a room filled with all these really incredible instruments, and Kim is in charge of playing the triangle. I'm pretty sure in an actual orchestra you are expected to be able to play heaps of instruments if you're the percussionist, but I feel like it's likely that Kim is solely on the triangle. The long-haired guy approaches him with a new pair of flippers, and where did he get these flippers? Does he just have a bunch of potential props to help him with his schemes, or did he have to go out and buy them knowing Kim likes swimming? He tells Kim that he can have them so long as he does this one simple thing. He has to stop talking to girls. Kim agrees to this and also puts them on to walk around school. Ondine's waiting for him, ready to put her own plan into action, only to be confronted with this doofus in flippers on land who's also holding his hands over his mouth because he's not allowed to talk to girls. She just accepts this, grabs his hand and walks him down to the tree. Also, congratulations Ondine, you've hit a milestone. You're holding hands. She reads him her poem, which is in no way funny at all, and the dude starts trying to hold in his laughter. Seriously, he was already trying not to laugh when she was saying that Syren wanted to find true love from a kind boy. Ha ha ha! Hilarious, right? Eventually it all gets too much for him and he bursts out laughing at her story. Yes, she makes it so clear to him that this was meant to be romantic. She looks devastated when he's laughing at her, and then he walks away, sad about himself because he has to give up the flippers because he spoke to a girl. Trash. Anyway, so one of the three guys has failed, now it's up to Mullet Guy. Meanwhile, Ondine's crying and all her friends are around her, and for some reason, instead of going to find Kim to tear him a new one for being so awful, they decide to try to find a new scenario to get Ondine kissed by him again, which could simply lead to their friend being hurt. Marinette should know better than anybody what a dickhead Kim can be. Where is Sokoline? She'd tell him how it is. Kim is trash. Oh, this is such vindication for me. I've always known. Andre the Ice Cream Man, Andre Bourgeois, Vincent, and now Kim. They're the four corners of the house of garbage. Kagami steps up with a new plan to trick Kim into kissing her with a biscuit stick. The idea is to Lady in the Trampet. Fairly standard plan, but even before this I saw the problem. Kim is dumb. I mean, he shows this with his interactions with the mullet guy who tries to intimidate him into not going out with Ondine anymore. And it's not like Kim's sticking up for himself either. He was just matter-of-factly stating, "Oh no, I'm still dating Ondine." However, he did agree to not hug her or hold her hand or anything like that. So he really is just that dumb. What the hell happened to him in the gap between the seasons? He wasn't always like this. He was always a bit of a doofus. But this makes it sound like Max did an experiment on him that went wrong. Over to the girls' plan. Kim is in the gents drying his hands, and what does he see? Ooh, one of the sticks on top of the hand dryer. First up, disgusting. In order for him not to have noticed it beforehand, it must have been put there whilst he was in the toilet, so already a bit creepy to sneak into the bathrooms like that. However, this is just a bad idea to begin with. A lot of people do not wash their hands properly. They do not soap up, or they just briefly rinse their hands. Then, when you put those barely washed hands under the dryer, it's going to blast hot air, which helps circulate piss and poop all through the room. The enclosed room. Right onto the food. Yummy, extra chocolate. He eats this, by the way, this random toilet snack. What is wrong with the boy? He follows this trail, like you'd trick your puppy into getting into his carrier to get him to the vet. As a dog or a cat grows up, they will no longer often fall for this shit. Kim is 3 or so years off from being an adult, and yet here he is, following the trail like he's friggin' Hansel and Gretel. Of course, this plan crashes and burns, and he snatches the one that is in her mouth away because he thought she wasn't going to eat it. Yes, Kim, it's in her mouth, and yet she wasn't going to eat it. Oh, how am I going to survive this episode? Kim! She rightfully yells at him for being an idiot and storms off crying with her friends going to comfort her. Of course, because Kim seemingly cannot read the room, he just watches at a distance. He doesn't go to try to comfort her or apologize, he just stands there awkwardly on the balcony. Here is where the final dude steps up and fools Kim. He tells him a bunch of BS about how kissing tall girls who are swimmers can lead to both anaphylactic shock, but also transfer special bacteria that could give Kim warts like he's a toad. By this point, most of the other girls have rightfully given up on him, whereas Marinette, for some reason, decides to keep on going. It's kind of annoying, but it is also a bit endearing. She wants her friend Ondine to be happy, and she's going to rise to the challenge. The word challenge inspires Ondine, and she realizes what she needs to do, racing off to find Kim after giving Marinette a big old bear hug. And was she always an Amazonian type person? Because, good God. She sprints off, quite literally kicks in the door of the room that Kim is in, demands an arm wrestling contest, and then beats him so badly it breaks the table in half. She really is desperate for this kiss, and then she demands one because the agreement was a dare. The winner gets to dare the other person. And I get that she's desperate, but, you know, this is where it goes from cute to creepy and pushy. I get why he wouldn't want to kiss her in this context, although him regurgitating the garbage that Nelson, I think he's called, was spewing, it was such a tone-deaf thing to do. He should still know from the conversation when they had that biscuit stick thing that she wants to kiss him. He should at least be a bit nicer than this. He just fumbles it all. Also, I will say, I didn't quite like the whole thing about her now being taller than him. I miss giant Greek god Kim. The redesign for this season nerfed him because if you're going to be this stupid, you need other qualities. But by shrinking him down, those offsetting qualities disappear. She, of course, runs off crying and gets akumatized, and fair enough. I'm shocked she lasted as long as she did to begin with. Marinette and Alia go to find her, only for the floodwaters to start to rise. Marinette runs off to transform whilst Alia starts to lead people to safety. I just realized that since so few people make it to the roof, does this mean the rest of them just drowned in the water? Yikes. Good one, Kim. Here, Marinette finally sees what's up and acts like a true friend. She decides that Kim is no longer worthy of the Miraculous, that she was a fool to give him one in the first place, and that she's going to take it back. Damn, she was mad. I think this is a big moment for the character, and it really shows a lot of depth. She's not willing to accept her friends being shitheads, and is going to bring down the hammer if she has to. I do wonder if she ever will have to strip somebody of their Miraculous in the end, even if it's only temporary. I mean, Chloe was technically stripped, but it wasn't really the same context, was it? Syren goes to sleep with a big voice calling out asking who's willing to go and kiss her to break the spell, like in an actual fairy tale. Kim, being an idiot, sees Cat Noir and Ladybug in the distance, and calls out for them to stop since it's a trap. After all, clearly they could go into shock and die. He notices a floating bin and jumps in to paddle towards them. How fitting. I'm surprised that the other girls didn't throw him into the water to drown him though after the things they heard him say. Water warriors then jump out of the newly formed sea to order people to dive in to kiss Syren, and if they don't, you're going to get turned into toads. Ladybug decides to summon the full team except for King Monkey because she intends to fire him as soon as the mission's over. Apparently Ivan's turned into a toad off screen though because he doesn't turn up. I'm thinking the actual reason he doesn't appear though is that they wanted to keep his cool new suit a surprise for this episode, which I think is the very next episode set after this one. That being said, weren't they all pretty much together on that roof? I wish they'd shown a scene of them all trying to awkwardly shuffle off to transform, leaving their one friend who has no Miraculous there alone. The minor heroes are sent off to defend Paris, whilst Cat Noir, Ladybug and Ryuko are going to go into the water to hunt for Syren's lair. Ryuko activates her water powers, whilst Ladybug eats the macaron to power up into a much improved aqua suit, and then Cat Noir, he eats the cheese! And that makes me want to gag. That cheese is pre-cut. It needed to be doused ahead of time with potion by Marinette. I think once you slice camembert, you need to eat it within a few days, so this is likely some pretty nasty old cheese unless Marinette burns through money buying camembert on the regular. Seriously, I've smelled off camembert recently. I'm surprised he could stomach it. Ugh! On top of that, doesn't he dislike cheese to begin with? Was that not a thing? He hates stinky cheese like this? Ugh, poor bastard. Also, I'm not a huge fan of his water suit, but it's better than what it was before. Whilst they head off, we cut to Kim, who's wondering why Ladybug didn't call him up before he decides that enough's enough. He rapidly strips into his bathing suit and jumps into the water. I have to ask, where's Zupu? We know that he goes with him because he transforms later in the episode. Oh, please tell me he's in the hat and not in the trunks. We then get a really fun montage of the minor heroes working together to save the people of Paris and beat up the water warriors, and this was just fun. It's nice to see this sort of big team up outside of the major episodes. It gives everybody a chance to shine and makes it feel like they actually are a proper team. This episode might be making Kim look terrible, but it's great in all other respects, I tell you what. They arrive at the palace and Ryuko starts fighting the door guard because she's probably the best underwater fighter, being made of water at the moment. The big two are going to use this time to get inside, only for Kim to foil their plans by jumping into the water to help them. This distracts Kagami and gets her turned into a toad, and so whilst Cat Noir holds off a guard, Ladybug takes the Dragon Miraculous and powers up into Dragonbug before saving Kim. Here, she learns to her dismay that no, Kim is not a cruel person. He really just is that stupid. So now she probably feels like she can't take the Miraculous away from him because he hasn't actually been awful and he's not unworthy. He's just so dumb. Imagine her internal crisis, knowing that she is stuck with this idiot on her team forever. She tells him that he can transform because his power will be useful, which prompts Zupu to appear from behind him. Thankfully, it seems from behind his head, and thus, he was under the hat. True to himbo form, Kim has the goofiest poses ever for his transformation. Gave me a good giggle. Sadly, we don't get to see Kim eat a flavoured banana or anything of the sort to become Aqua Monkey. He just uses his power to turn all the water across Paris into soap bubbles. Also, rest in peace to any poor bastard still floating in the water who just fell from rooftop height to the hard ground below, whilst also getting covered in soap suds. What a way to go. On top of that, Kim's costume is all the proof you need, I guess, that the costumes are clearly magical, because you can seriously just see his face outright here, and yet neither Adrian nor Ondine figure it out. Side note, I have been shitting on Kim all episode, and rightfully so. But big ups to him. Somebody of his intelligence managing to avoid telling anybody that he's King Monkey. Yeah, I know I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel trying to find positives for the kid, but I'm trying. Ladybug uses the Wind Dragon power to blow the suds away, and then they arrive to help Cat Noir defeat the guards. They bust inside, only to find their princess is guarded by a water dragon. Here is where we have another good fight that showcases the change in the writing. Everybody gets their moment to shine, everybody lands hits and gets to be cool. It isn't just the Ladybug show in defeating the villains. They use extremely quick dry cement to kill this dragon. How? Magic, I guess. They free her not by kissing her, which was very refreshing. I see Ladybug attended the consent workshop at long last, right? After many seasons of stalking, she has finally seen the light. Kim finds where the Akuma stashed and they cleanse it. They reverse everything, which turns people back to normal, but it doesn't seem to take anybody back to where they were before they were turned into toads. So there are lots of people on the roof, and does this also mean that Kagami's just lurking outside the door, waiting for a Miraculous to be given back? The heroes all meet up to celebrate, whilst Lila copes and seethes back at home with poor little Nuru still frozen. I feel so bad for him. This would suck. What do we reckon with Lila here, by the way? We see the top of her head and her arm. Any thoughts on if we've seen her around school and stuff? Kim finally gets the memo about kissing Ondine, but to be honest, he's lucky she doesn't outright dump him for all this shit. That being said, at least he owns it and he's sorry, right? They then discover the joy of kissing somebody you love in front of their friends, who all have to awkwardly look away because they just keep going. It's sweet. Marinette and Adrian do the Lady and the Tramp kiss, and that's all cute, and then we get some shots of the other couples kissing as well. Most notably, is this the first canonical on-screen kiss in terms of the chronology for Rose and Julika and Mark and Nathaniel? The cynical part of me realizes that they did it this way because it's easy to cut this out for conservative places. After all, in all their future episodes, I think kisses are more implied than outright shown, right? Still, it was nice to see. The episode then finishes by cutting over to the bullies at night, talking about how they failed and there are still other couples to wreck. A voice from above tells them there's going to be no next time, and they're confronted by a hooded figure who seemingly jumps down to, well, I guess jump them. Judging by their figure and voice, it's a woman. The costume and agility suggests the Miraculous, and since they set up the ringleader in Daddy Cop, which is one episode before this, and he threatened Zoe in that episode, it's probably her. I figure that as soon as she heard that they'd been telling Kim things and that it led to her friends being hurt, Zoe suited up in a different costume a la Catwalker and went to put the fear of God into these cretins. We'll see how long it lasts though. I feel like they'll be back for sure. Plus, using your Miraculous like this, clearly against the rules, and is going to lead to some sort of conflict in the future. They're planting a lot of seeds. This season is going hard. I'm a bit disappointed that this episode was not the Kim renaissance that Ivan, Nathaniel and Sabrina got though. It feels like the standard Kim is a dipshit and then is sorry episode. We've seen that before. Time to move on to something fresh. Maybe one day they'll try again. Still a great episode though, and next up we have the Dark Castle on the 11th, so they're keeping that hype going. Excellent! So with all that being said, these have just been my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of Sleeping Siren? Did you like it? Hate it? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.